Hello, everybody. My name is Fred Dauber. I'm founder, president, and chief simplification officer at Cansec Systems. We've been manufacturing access control products in Mississauga, Ontario for over 35 years. I'm very excited to introduce a new product called Webster Concierge. This product was designed from the ground up to make it easy for locksmiths to get into the access control industry. By the way, if you're finding it a little difficult to understand some of the things I'm saying, it might be because of my very strong Canadian accent. If that's the case, you may want to turn on closed captioning. To do that, just find the little CC button on the YouTube navigation bar and click on it. The good news is that as a locksmith, you already are an expert in doors, door hardware, and this gives you a big advantage over everybody else because in order for an access control system to work, the doors and the strikes all have to work. It's worthy also to note that as a locksmith, you're already in a position of trust with your customers. This gives you a big advantage as well over other competitors in the market. Everybody in business wants to make more money. One of the things that many people don't realize is that the revenue that you make, which is recurring revenue, has a much greater value to your business than any other kind of revenue. One great thing with Webster Concierge, it allows you to start earning recurring revenue. One thing I'd like to point out right at the outset is one really big benefit of Webster Concierge is that it totally eliminates the need for you to have any IT or computer expertise. Concierge allows you to close deals quickly, install quickly, train the user quickly, get out quickly, and minimize callbacks. The real beauty of Webster Concierge is that there is no software to install and no on-site computer required. The software is already installed on the Webster controller. You connect to it using any browser on any phone, tablet, or PC. It could not be more simple. There are two different types of Webster. The other member of the Webster family is called a Webster 64. It is expandable. It supports 2 or 4 doors on board, but it can be expanded up to 64 doors with expansion panels. Each Webster 64 can have up to 4 readers connected to it, control 4 lock outputs, 4 auxiliary sets of auxiliary outputs, basically everything you need to handle either 2 or 4 doors, all on board. When you want to expand a Webster 64, I thought I would give you an idea of what the physical size is of these products. They're very small, but do not be fooled into thinking that they're not powerful because they are incredibly powerful, as I'll go into a little bit later on. When you're looking at these, keep in mind that I'm holding them in my hands and I have really, really huge hands. And as everybody knows, if you have really big hands, you have a big brain. There's a couple of great aspects to this reader. One of them is the fact that not only does it support reading traditional, conventional access cards and fobs, it also allows you to use your phone as a mobile credential to gain access. The other aspect of this reader, which is very cool and which is why we love it, is the fact that one reader can accommodate both mounting applications. Readers typically will get either mounted on a hollow metal mullion, which are typically 1 3/4 wide, or they will get mounted on a wall. And when they're mounted on a wall, typically they would be mounted on a single gang electrical box. The great thing with this reader is that it comes with a wall mount adapter. So the one product will accommodate both mullion and wall mount. One of the reasons why that's great is that if you need different models for those two applications, you're depending on having the right counts when you go to the job site. And if you miscalculated and you got the wrong quantities of one or the other, you're going to have to go back to the shop and get more readers and come back to do the job. Having one that will accommodate both totally eliminates that problem. It's a very good thing. The other aspect of this reader, which is very cool and which is why we love it, is the fact that one reader can accommodate both mounting applications. Readers typically will get either mounted on a hollow metal mullion, which are typically 1 3/4 wide, or they will get mounted on a wall. And when they're mounted on a wall, typically they would be mounted on a single gang electrical box. The great thing with this reader is that it comes with a wall mount adapter. So the one product will accommodate both mullion and wall mount. One of the reasons why that's great is that if you need different models for those two applications, you're depending on having the right counts when you go to the job site. And if you miscalculated and you got the wrong quantities of one or the other, you're going to have to go back to the shop and get more readers and come back to do the job. Having one that will accommodate both totally eliminates that problem. It's a very good thing. When you install this reader on drywall, you'll use the supplied wall mount adapter plate. That adapter plate is designed to fasten to a standard single gang electrical box, and the type that you'll want to be using is one that is called a rework or retrofit, and we'll talk to you a little bit about that and tell you what they are. So I mentioned to you that there is a specific type of single gang electrical box that you're going to want to use. These boxes are designed specifically for retrofit, unlike regular electrical junction boxes, which you would fasten to a stud. When you're doing a retrofit, you may want to, wherever you want to put the reader, there's no guarantee there'll be a stud. What is great with these things is that you make the cutout, you slip the box in, and then there's two little wings that swing out. You fasten them, you tighten up a screw, those wings then grip onto the back of the drywall and keep the box firmly in place without the requirement to have them connected to or fastened to a stud. One of the very important aspects of putting in a system so that it works properly, stays working properly, is the wiring. What we recommend is that you use this specific Belden cable. This cable is designed specifically for use with access control applications. It has the right number of conductors, all within one cable. It has also the right type of wire for the different functions. Don't try and save money on wiring. You're going to regret it. You will find that this cable is somewhat more expensive, but it does the job, and all of the conductors you need are already in it, and it will all be the right ones. Don't make a shortcut on cabling or you will regret it. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about the credentials that are used with these Farpoint readers. The credentials use a technology called DesFire. It's a MyFair technology, specifically DesFire, and that technology uses AES 128-bit encryption, and these credentials have to date not been cloned. It doesn't mean they never will be, but to date they have not been cloned in spite of a lot of people trying to do it. And I will explain to you why that's important. So what exactly is credential cloning? Basically, think of it in terms of keys. A customer will bring in a key. They want to make a copy. You get a compatible blank. You put it in the machine, and basically you copy exactly whatever that key is onto another blank, and now the guy's got two identical keys. Card cloning, credential cloning is exactly the same way. Basically, there's equipment available which will allow you to take a customer's access card, read the data off of it, store it in memory, and then write that data back onto a blank card, thereby having created an exact duplicate of that credential. They're 100% identical. There's no way to tell one from the other. The whole notion of card cloning has been around for a long time, but the equipment to do it was not readily available or was not public knowledge how you can do it. That has all now changed pretty dramatically because the device that I just described to you that can read a card, save the data, write it back into a blank card, that is available in a kit form on Amazon for under 20 bucks. And that includes the reader writer and sample cards and fobs, which basically means it's super easy to clone cards. Not all cards. The cards that we're using are, as I mentioned, have not been cloned to date. So here's what the kit looks like. It's a little handheld reader writer and then some blank fobs. To make a copy of somebody's card, you take it, hold it up to the reader, press the read button, it stores the data in memory. You put a blank card up against it, you press write, and it takes that data, writes it into the new credential, and you've made a direct copy of it. For people that care to know, uh, the vulnerability to cloning is the biggest with 125 kilohertz credentials. These are the ones that have been around for ever, 20 years, well, probably longer than that. There was not an issue for the longest time because the equipment to be able to clone them was very limited. Now it's readily available and dirt cheap. Therefore, clonable credentials is really no longer acceptable to be sold, in my opinion. So you can think of this cloner as essentially a $20 pocket-size universal key cutting machine. If you sell a clonable credential solution to a customer, they may end up having less security than they did with keys. It should be noted that non-clonable credentials and their readers are more expensive than clonable versions. If you get in a competitive situation and people are quoting readers that seem to be crazy cheap, you can pretty much guarantee that those readers use credentials which are clonable. And I would suggest that you would not want to be selling that to your customer because they might be very disappointed. And as the saying goes, you get what you pay for. Let's talk a little bit about wiring. From an install standpoint, you are going to be very comfortable with everything around the door. In fact, you're probably already cutting electric strikes in for other access control companies because they're not comfortable doing that. However, there will be requirement to run wiring. The facility that I've shown here, this is basically our own building. This is a typical industrial complex, and there's hundreds of thousands of these. They all have one thing in common. There's office areas in the front which always have suspended ceilings. Suspended ceilings make running wires super easy. You lift up the tiles, get your wires up there, you put the tiles back, and you're done. For these kind of sites, do not have reservations about taking on the wiring for them. Uh, you may have some challenges in the first few until you get really comfortable, but it is a simple environment to be able to run wires in. However, there are installations that are not friendly for running wires. This is a picture of what some of them might look like. These are not industrial complexes. None of those buildings that you're seeing in there have nice suspended ceilings that you can just get up in there and throw your cables and do your stuff. If you're asked to do an install in a facility like this, I recommend strongly that you hire an electrical contractor to do the wiring for you. Alternatively, you may want to just pass on the job and go on fishing for ones which are more suited that you can make more money on. Here's another example of a building where you would not want to be taking on the wiring yourself. Same deal, hire an electrical contractor to do the wiring or pass on the job. This is a picture of the vestibule in our building, the front door. It's typical of what you'll find in industrial uh, facilities. You'll notice the suspended ceiling, super easy to get up there to run your wiring. The other thing that is worthy to note is that if it's a single door system, then pretty much all the wiring is going to be right in the vicinity of the door, and that makes life very, very simple. You're probably going to find a lot of customers, or it's also good to remember that the billing, when you look at a Webster controller, they're quite tiny. Remember I said you need to target. So the word is only take jobs that are simple. Another thing that you may be asked to do that you need to be, however, that does not mean that you have to lose. So what are some of the benefits to you of a Webster? One of the big benefits of Webster Concierge, one of the great advantages of Webster Concierge, one of the other nice benefits with Webster Concierge is that there's another great benefit to Webster Concierge is as in some cases, 4 doors isn't going to be enough. We mentioned the importance of generating recurring revenue. See how important recurring revenue is? So I want to talk to you now a little bit about the power of provisioning. Here's a good way to think of it. Essentially, you only pay for. Remember I said the goal is to try and make this really, really simple. So Webster Configurator basically from the website, you would go to the web. So just to reiterate, the Webster, and as I promised, here's what it looks like. So this is a type of a PDF that would be generated if you entered 8 doors. And essentially, it will tell you everything that you need, all the parts, the quantity of the parts in order to build that system. The only thing where it won't give you the quantity is the number of credentials, because that'll vary from site to site. So we can't figure that out for you. You would have to fill that in. But everything else is there, and that's right down to door contacts, which we recommend are always used. The control units, how many readers you would need, what kind of power supply and what type of power supply you would need, the batteries to go along with it. Just a quick note on batteries. You always want to use a real good quality power supply. It's super important. And you also want to make sure they are battery backed up. If not, and there's a power outage, those doors are not working, people are not getting in, they probably will not be very happy. So there are places where you may want to try and save money, but battery backup and very good quality power supplies are not one of those places. So I'd mentioned multiple times that Webster's simple and intuitive. So basically, here's So this one's a lot more interesting because it's got some of the. I've kept telling you that Webster Concierge is simple, and I mean it. But as they say, talk is cheap. So don't take my word for it. You can connect to a live Webster 64 controller at our office to see for yourself. Just enter demowebster.cansec.com in any browser to try it out. And if you happen to be one of those rare people who like to read operator guides, you can view and download it by entering cansec.com/W64 guide in any browser. I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch this kind of too long video. I apologize. We'd really love to have you join the growing family of Webster Concierge dealers. We promise to take good care of you. You can call us at 1-877-545-7755 and press 2 for sales, or you can email us at sales@cansec.com. We're looking forward to hear from you.